in Parliament. Let me seek your view under 2 minutes about the Speaker's position. You're also a Speaker. The Speaker's position that journalists must ensure that whilst Parliament is in session, they stay in Parliament to follow what is happening there, and that their core business of being in Parliament is to ensure they cover what happens on the floor of Parliament. Except after Parliament is out of session, that's when they can go out. A lot of journalists have not taken kindly to the Speaker's position. What's your take on that matter?
I don't know the terms of the directive, but I also read it in papers. I've listened to people complain about it. I think it was in reaction to something. The desertion of plenary session by members of the Parliamentary Press Corps to cover a press conference of the minority. I mean, this is done. It's not the first time it's been done. But it is for the journalists to decide what is newsworthy. They are not our employees. We only give them accreditation. The accreditation is to cover what happens in Parliament, not on the floor of Parliament. And so I think the Speaker might have slipped, okay, because the journalists are there to link whatever happens in Parliament, to link Parliament to the society. And so whatever they see as newsworthy, they have to cover it and bring it out. In fact, they don't even have to see or hear. They also have to investigate and unearth things that are happening there. They have to open up Parliament, because Parliament is the only arm of government that transacts its business in the open.
Okay.
It's the only arm. Okay? We're not like the executive. We don't hold cabinet meetings and then confidentiality and that kind of thing. And so I'm surprised that he made that I don't know whether it was a directive or it was an order or whatever. But I think the media is right to complain about it. That's an attempt to gag them. It's infringing on the freedoms that have been graciously granted to the media and all of us, free speech and all those things. I support the media in that direction. But the problem we have in Ghana is that, see, in the hybrid system, we didn't get the balancing act well. You see, there are types of speakership. In fact, two main types come out clearly. You have the sole speaker, which was started in the British, the Commonwealth style. And then you have the composite speaker with a number of deputies, and that is the French model. Sometimes they have about 7, and each deputy is assigned a role. Okay, you have duties you play. But what we have in Ghana, in trying to move away from the soul and to have 2 deputies who are at the beck and call of the speaker, you are not assigned anything. And as I said, the only time I come in is to come and preside after the speaker or the deputy speaker or both of them are unable to continue, either because of fatigue or for duty call. Then I come in, you know. And so the position of a deputy speaker is worse than that of a vice president. We need to look at these things, you know. In the French model, they can have about 7 deputies, but each deputy is assigned a particular duty. You know, we don't have that in Ghana.
But why haven't we heard you raise these issues about some of these things, especially in Parliament, considering that you're still a parliamentarian? That, look, it's about time we had a conversation about the roles that we play as, you know, deputies to the speaker. Have you raised it before?
We need to do that by legislation. Okay, you need to do that by legislation. This speaker opened up a bit by allowing us to always sit in. We are in attendance at the Parliamentary Service Board meetings. That's something that he has introduced. It used not to be that way. Okay, and so it's a step forward. But we will need to do it by some amendments in the Constitution or by legislation. Okay, so we need to do that. I think that these discussions usually, when they are generated by ourselves, people try to let it look like a self-serving, like a self-serving. So we are sometimes loath to bring them up yourself. You want it to come from somewhere else. And as I said, we need to have people there to share these things with the society so that they can see the weaknesses or the ills of the system and then support us to refine them.
Let's stay in Parliament a bit longer. Just recently, His Excellency gave the explanation address. The minority staged a walkout out of the presentation by His Excellency the President. What did you make of that move by the minority?
Well, it's the position of my party. So what will I make of it?
Did you agree? Did you subscribe to the decision to, walk out of Parliament? Did you subscribe to it?
Yes, I support it, and I did walk out myself. So
why?
It's a decision. It's an effective.
I'm sure it's a deliberative decision where you were allowed to raise.
The focus was to draw the attention of Ghanaians and to place some more emphasis on the governance in the country. We believe strongly, and you just refer to the directive also of the Right Honourable Speaker, that we are moving away from what we know about democracy towards totalitarianism. Okay, we are. You see, we are talking now about concentration of power in the hands of one person. Our constitution is not that perfect. It seems to have created that system, but it depends on the individual quality, the leadership qualities and style. What we're getting these days is about too much power being exercised by His Excellency the President as against the other institutions, which sometimes offend the freedoms and rights of the individuals. Let me cite just some examples.
Okay.
Recent destruction of property. You can talk about what happened at the trade fair site. You can talk about what happened to the former Deputy Regional Secretary of the NDC in the Volta region. Those are acts that you can't trace lawfully to the court decisions. If a court gives you an order to take over your land, okay, the court doesn't say that just move and destroy whatever is there and take over your land.
Happy FM.
At least you have to give some time for the person to be able to move out. And these were done by state institutions. You talk about trade fair. Okay? So it's not like an individual. Then when you go to the Deputy Regional Secretary, the former Deputy Regional Secretary of the Volta region, you look at the personalities involved. They have something to do with government. Again, we've complained, and not only us, even society, about the building up of some unlawful forces in the country. It doesn't seem to abate. Government is still going on with it with that bravado. And so you, as a party in opposition, you look for opportunities to hit so as to raise this topic for national discourse. People may think that this is for the benefit of the opposition. No, it's for the benefit of Ghanaians It's going to benefit Ghanaians as a whole. What is Parliament for? It's for the people. That's what we are there for. And so when these things are raised, many people get up on a daily basis struggling for bread and butter. And so they are not listening to what is happening in the country. It's only when they hit themselves against the wall, then they say, what is this? What is happening? Then they say, it's because 1, 2, 3 has been done by government. You see? And so it's usually the duty of members of Parliament and Parliament itself to raise these issues. And that is why we are giving those tools to use. And they are very effective, and they are utilized all over the world. You listen to the majority leader and leader of the House who says, yes, it's a democratic tool, and they are right to use it. There are some fallouts, or I might say losses that we make as a party, because now we're giving them a very free, open check to do and say whatever they want on the floor of the House, you see. But at least the national interest would have been served better that way. So I support it.
It's interesting the descriptions that were given, that it amounted to, you know, a tyrant, a dictator, and all of those things, and that the signs are on the wall. But people in government will tell you, when you raise these issues about the state of the security of our nation, they'll tell you, I'm sure the issue of Ahmed Swale was raised. They'll tell you, okay, we are resourcing the Ghana Police Service, we are resourcing the army, we bought them vehicles, we bought them several other things. If you talk about the media, for instance, when issues about the media houses which have been closed down are raised, you hear government officials telling you that, look, it is as a result of the non-compliance of these stations that they were shut down. If you talk about the corruption, government officials will tell you that the several instances of alleged corruption that have happened, investigations have been done. So where is the minority coming from?
What do you expect government to say? That's what definitely government will say. In the military regimes, the first time we saw what do you call the MOACs being given to the police was during the Achampon regime. And you know how they were used to terrorize resistance or criticisms and divergent opinions, and a number of students that were killed. You know, so for equipping them to what purpose? Is the equipment meant to make them better, to investigate and enforce the law? Are they equipment that are meant to let them relate better with civil society, so that we are friends of the police service? Or equipment and machines meant to suppress opposition? And so when you are picketing, then they come and just pump hot water or whatever, cold water on you to prevent you from expressing your opinions and views. I think that what they are talking about is not, it's like, you know, autocrats usually look for such state institutions, strengthen them to be able to protect them in power. All over history, that's what has been happening. And so you can't talk about that. If you talk about the media, at least look at the current record and look at the human rights records all over the years. We're doing better. Now, it's not that rosy again, where we kill journalists for investigating and bringing out things, where journalists are being beaten, stations are closed. And look at the stations that are closed. Whoever told you that it's only those stations that might not have complied with the law? You know? So you can't be picking and choosing and doing some of these things. And particularly those who go around parroting that they are liberal Democrats. I know? So it's really sad that our democracy is on a nosedive. And I think we should all sit up. You know? If you hear people now talking about, oh, we are going to be in power forever, is that democratic? They cannot. Okay?
But
if you allow...
As a result of the fact that they know that they put up infrastructure, they've done things that the people of Ghana are happy about, and so they are rest assured that they are going to be in power for a while.
If it's been performance, even in the US, after Clinton, the Democrats would have won. If it's about performance, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama would have won 2016 elections. That's not what it's about. You see, politics generally, as I keep on telling people, it's about character and policy. The promise of policy, the character, the conduct, the behavior of the members and the party involved. They tell more of their quality of leadership than infrastructure.
Let me ask
and
you
people
this.
are looking at that one more than infrastructure.
Because of proximity, where you sit, you have access to the president. If not, going to his office when he's coming to parliament. You're talking about character. You're talking about the shape of the governance structure we are running today. Do you consider the president, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, an autocrat?
I've known him for a long time, and I've worked with him. I keep on saying he's far my senior. Yes, but when he was with me in Parliament, and we were leading the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, I was chairman, he was ranking member. I didn't see that in him. Okay? I may see some evidence of impatience with him, and sometimes violent behavior. But I didn't see autocracy in him. He was always prepared to listen to me, and when I disagreed with him and argued out, and he sees that he's not going to win the debate, he would just laugh and walk away. I mean, that's how we worked for all those years. Okay? And I thought that for somebody who started with Dr. Nkrumah, and he was a very strong, solid CPP member until after the coup in '66. Then he went to the UP and has been in politics, particularly the leadership style, not even the leadership, but the activists for so many years now. I thought he would have been well groomed to really lead the country. And so in the 2016 elections, even though I was praying and working for His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to win, I thought that even if we lost, the governance, the quality of governance would not have changed much. But unfortunately, that is not what we are experiencing.
So
I have always mentioned that to him. Anytime we met and I had some time to chat. Okay, I don't have any ill feeling for him. No, not at all. And I'm very open, so I always tell him that no, I'm surprised, And so I pray that he'll be in control. But when I listen to His Majesty Otunfuo recently, at the lecture he delivered at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, I took something from it, that the kind of system we are running in Ghana, the leaders get enslaved by their party members. And I think that might be what is happening to him.
How do the leaders get enslaved by the party members?
Initially, I raised the issue of party funding and campaign financing. And there is no individual that can raise that money. And so you are compelled to rely on others. And now we have political entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And so people pump huge sums of money to you. And that is where the foot soldiers lose out. The foot soldiers don't have the money.
Yeah.
But they work, they labor day in and day out, At the end of the day, the political entrepreneurs, the money bags come in and buy the leader. And the leader wins the election, and he's giving positions, appointments to the political entrepreneurs, or listening to them to give him who they want to give him what position. I know they virtually buy the leader off. And it seems that is what is happening in the country.
What you're suggesting is that the president is under the influence of certain people. That's how come he's governing the way he is?
Well, from my knowledge of him and from what is happening now, how do you explain it? You know? He will say, no, that is not the case. But sometimes, it shocks me, for example, that somebody who used to say that 80-something ministers and deputy ministers was too large, and that given the opportunity, they will get about 60, now goes to a point of 126. How am I going to explain that? You know? How? How am I going to explain that somebody who used to complain about a former president using a presidential plane to a region or outside the country now flies by, you know, a private jet that's hired and paid, and some ministers are even flying helicopters to go and file in their primaries, and the president doesn't say anything and nothing happens? How are you going to explain that kind of conduct? You know, how are you going to do that? Somebody who used to lead his party in demonstrations, okay, now, yes, he will not say anything about the demonstrations, but the people who are now equipped, okay, and trained to visit mayhem on people who are demonstrating. I mean, how can you explain that? Look, the state of nation, the recent state of the nation, like the people that you saw as security around there, official security personnel.
But who are they?
We know each other in Ghana, you know. They are not.
But that's why members of parliament you are there, because you can then bring the minister, local government, the national security minister, and find out who are these people who came to gather. Have you done so? Because
of what happened in the recent Ayawaso West Wugon by-election, with the establishment of a whole commission of eminent Ghanaians, well-respected Ghanaians. And what happened to the report? Rubbished by the same government. You know? So, what do? You can raise your voice, they will come and rubbish it, they will deny it. You don't have the wherewithal to do the investigation. Okay? Even in parliament. Now, sometimes we struggle even to get fuel to work.
Parliament?
Yeah, parliament, yes. Do your investigation. Do investigation now. But you're not releasing our budgets. If you do the investigation, you will see it. You know, it's sad. It's not only the state institutions that are not giving money to function.
Happy FM.
And a lot of us now, you know, my common fund and my get fund and the rest, I give them to the departments in the constituency, and they use them for operations and their infrastructural needs, because nothing is being sent to them.
Well, it's 20 more minutes before we end the conversation on Happy 98.9 FM. If you just join us, I'm here with the Honorable Alban Bagbin, Second Deputy Speaker of Parliament. We're talking about a myriad of issues. And so far, we have been in Parliament. We are staying in Parliament for the next 5 minutes to talk about the Get Fund saga and the fact that, you know, members of Parliament have found their names onto a list of, you know, beneficiaries who are supposed to be smart, brilliant, and needy, and the justifications that have come so far. Honourable, the work that the Auditor General has done, and the fact that you find members of Parliament on that list, how do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, the Auditor General is doing his work. He has the courage to come out is not usually perfect report, but that is what is expected of him and his staff. That report, particularly, there are some errors in it. You recall one deputy minister has come out strongly. His name is there, but there's no amount on the report allocated to him, which meant that he might have put in an application, but it was not approved. But his name is there. There are also some names that they have clearly stated that they went for courses and some monies were given to them, which is not the case on that list, because I know some of the people involved, and they never attended any such schools and did any such courses. Okay, so, but you cannot trace that to the Auditor General. Those are the records at the Get Fund that they used. Okay, so he's doing his job well. As to whether members of parliament are brilliant and needy students, it's very clear that they are not. They are not, you know. But you also have the other issue of continuous learning.
Okay.
Okay. You may be a brilliant chartered accountant, and you are elected to parliament. You get into parliament, and there are other areas of life, there are subject areas that you don't have much knowledge in, and therefore you're trying to go out to learn, and you're looking for funding. So they put in applications all around. It's not only to get fund, to other institutions to support. I think that Get Fund is wrong for any member of parliament to apply to be supported there to go and learn. But there are other institutions that I know people put in applications, and they sometimes support them. For example, I know in the oil and petroleum sector, the members of the committee, and some members, not even in the Mines and Energy Committee, sometimes put in applications to GMPC to support them to go and learn that area, some 2 weeks, 3 weeks course, to have a grasp of what is happening in the oil sector, so that they can analyze the reports properly and debate the issues on the floor better than they are doing. They do that. But to write to Get Fund and be funded by Get Fund as a member of parliament to go and do a course outside is totally against the spirit and the letter of the law.
Do you find their reasons they've given so far tenable?
Which reasons?
For instance, the Honorable Addo Safwa said that she had to go and learn to better serve her people. Some of her said nothing bars them from, you know, taking the money.
No. Well, the people don't understand the law. The act completely bars them. Okay? There are areas that you should apply the fund. It doesn't include sponsoring members of parliament to go and study outside. No, it doesn't.
But they are citizens before being members.
No, but it doesn't say citizens. It said needed by brilliant students.
Yes.
Okay? And the areas are all earmarked. What money goes to basic, what money goes to secondary, tertiary, and all those things are stated in the law. Okay? The institution of parliament is not there. It's not general public. That we talk about students, we talk about people who want to educate themselves, bring themselves up. Yes, it's true that they are citizens first, but at the time of the application, where were you, a member of parliament? And I think that they should have channeled those applications to other institutions that could help. Because a lot of institutions have social responsibility, the corporate social responsibility, and they apply some funds to that to support people outside the perimeter of the Get Fund to go and educate themselves, you know.
Honorable, let me ask finally, before we shift to your party and your preparedness for the 2020 elections, the Electoral Commission and its stance it has taken to compile a new voters register. What do you make of their position so far?
Untenable. Happy to hear trade unions coming out to say that, look, even Ghanaians are weary. They are weary. We're tired of queuing every day to be registered for elections, okay? But most importantly, we say we're doing a national census this year, right? We are also having the National Identification Authority giving out national ID cards. Why not wait until after the census we get at least some picture about the population and the demography? Why not wait after the National Identification Authority has finished its work? We all now have national ID cards.
But that's where they raise the issues about the unreliability of the equipment they are going to use for the 2020 elections, and that they need.
But it's not borne by facts. The civil society organizations, 18 of them, analyze the situation and has brought the things out that it cannot be true. It cannot be true that those equipment are not reliable. When you analyze the per capita we spend on individual voter, and it's unrealistic. We're spending too much just on the process, how to get people to vote. Okay? And we are not, what is the outcome? We're not getting anything from that. And because of the dishonesty, you know,
Happy FM.
that is letting us go high tech, in fact, more than even the advanced economies.
Yeah.
You see, so I don't support it at all. I mean, it's not the best option to apply our national resources.
Okay.
I think that the Electoral Commission should rethink. I did say the time that she was appointed that, look, I've known her for a long time at the Institute of Economic Affairs. And I made a statement that another very beautiful, good brain lady is being sent to the gallows. And some organization, a women organization, came out attacking me that I said that to a woman. Why am I saying that it should be given to men? No, because I know the storms at the Electoral Commission. From experience, even the strong personality like Dr. Afarijan didn't have it easy because our political arena is not clean. And that is what is happening. She's having it tough. But most importantly, the fact that she's not giving the IPAC any respect and giving them space to make input. This is what we've decided, and this is what we are telling you. That is not what the IPAC was established to do. Yes, it is advisory. But why do you need an advice? So that that advice could better inform you to take a most appropriate decision. Why you treat them like you don't matter? And now she's proceeded to establish another advisory council of eminent citizens. That is the same thing that will happen to them too. Okay? If you can't listen to the IPAC, well, these are the players. The players that will want to say that, look, yes, what is politics about? It's about consensus building. Okay? So you need those players to sit with you and build consensus. Then you take the decisions. Then implementation becomes easier because they all have a buy-in into the decision. Now you are just going to impose on them. And you don't have the might to be able to manage them when you are implementing your rules. You don't have it. And so you will now be compelled to rely on the state represented by government, which is a party. And so the issue of peace being compromised is real.
That takes me to your party and its preparedness for the 2020 elections. Do you see your party showing commitment and seriousness towards clinching power in 2020?
I do. We are preparing. We are not yet prepared, but we are preparing. And I know that the most effective instrument, the manifesto, is being drafted. It will come up for discussion. I also know our flag bearer, the former president, is touring the country with the elders, including the national executives. I know that the party structures are being oiled and that they are working hard on the ground. There are some things that we are doing in terms of even education, you know, a number of workshops, as I know, training seminars are being organized. So yes, we are preparing towards 2020, and I believe that the MPP will have a serious run for their money. Fortunately for us, the tables are turning. In spite of all the strategies they are applying, I mean, things doesn't look good for the MPP. But as I stated earlier on one radio station, I'm still holding on till the second quarter of 2020, and I will be clearer in my mind as to which party is going to have the day.
Would you be joining the campaign for your party?
Definitely, yes.
You would?
Even now, I'm playing a very active role in a number of areas.
It's beginning to look like 2020 is going to be an all-promises
Happy FM.
Because I've heard your flag bearer make the point that they are going to build new universities in every new region. There's 6 more that were created. I've heard him say that there's going to be free technical and vocational education, that they are going to scrap the teacher licensure examinations, they are going to scrap the double track system, complete the 200 schools that you were building in 2012-2016. These promises that are being made, let me, and I know my time is exhausted, but for instance, let me talk about the scrapping of the double track system. The question people have asked is, we don't already have the infrastructure. So if the NDC comes to power, and let's say within the first 6 months, they decide to scrap the double track system, where would be the infrastructure?
Why? We would have completed what we started, which has been abandoned, and some of them are really completed, but they are not being utilized. You recall recently there's some task force that is going to occupy one of the completed buildings. I think it's in the Ashanti region, and the villagers rose up against it, you know. So they are there. Even in Accra here, I think it's around Lejikuku. Yes, there's one completed there, and it's not being utilized. And so, yes, the first thing is to complete, and that's what we were doing. Make sure that you put the infrastructure in place, and then you can roll it out 100%. And that's what the Constitution actually prescribed, progressive. They said that the progress was taking too long a time, and so without the facilities, they just rolled it out. But they didn't even roll it out 100%. They also did it progressively. Because they didn't say for the 3 years. They started with the first year, and for the 3 years they rolled it up to the 3rd year. So it was also progressive, but it was a way of branding their promises, and they managed to cajole Ghanaians to vote for them.
I was going to ask the question about, you know, the transition period. Let's say the NDC wins 2020. There's going to be a transition period where the NPP will hand over to the NDC. That will take between, let's say, 2 to 3 months for the transition proper to happen. Then the government has to be formed. With a promise like scrapping the free SHS, and the fact that we know that within the 4 years of this administration, it's been difficult for them to meet the revenue targets they've set over the period. How feasible would it be for the NDC to scrap, let's say, within the first 6 months of their government, with this promise that is going to be expected to be commenced immediately if the NDC wins power?
No, transition doesn't take that long. It's between 7th December or 28th December, depending whether there's a runoff, and then 7th January. 7th January, you hand over. That's the transition. It's a very limited period.
Ministries and everything.
You are talking about
and all. I'm talking about the entire total government structure.
Oh well, that one takes more than that. Yeah, because you need to do nominations, you need to do prior approval, you need to do appointments, you need to from ministers to deputies to boards and all those. So it takes time. But whilst you are doing that, you have some core members that are working with you. Okay, people refer to them as kitchen cabinets.
Okay.
And then you'll be taking some of the preliminary decisions and certain things before you get the full complement of your government. And I believe it's doable. Don't forget, as stated earlier on, the politics is all about what? Character and policy. Okay? The policy is the promise. Okay? What do I get from it? All the communities are looking for what they will get from it. And so you realize that even though some people believed that all the promises that the MPP made were not doable, they still voted for them. But there was some hope.
You spoke about character. Just has your candidate got the character? Because I've over the years heard the NPP tag him as corrupt, as incompetent and all. Has he got the character?
Those are words that are used always. Even in the 2000 elections, it was the same thing they used. The NDC was corrupt, NDC was incompetent, His Excellency Jerry John Rawlings was corrupt, he was incompetent. Those were the same thing they used. Okay? In 2008, we used the same thing. It's just that Ghanaians will need to wise up to the realities. That these are just political, talk, and then go deeper to get the truth. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has even now been presented like a saint from the performance of this government. Okay? He looks better than he was in government because they now have the two to compare and contrast. And he's shining, bright. Because it's not only what he said, but what he did have all come to be proven by this government to be right. Well, and so he's better.
Honorable, we will end the conversation here. Our time is exhausted. I wish we could continue, but our time is exhausted. In leaving the studio, if a Ghanaian is listening and asked you, how would you grade Akufo-Addo's performance? 0 to 100. What mark would you give him?
Not long ago, I gave him 30%.
30%?
Yes, but now, with a few things that has happened, I can give you 35. I can give him 35%.
35%.
Yes.
Honorable Alban Bagbin, we are grateful you made time to join us this morning in the studio. We are so grateful. And that's Honorable Alban Bagbin joining us. He's the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament. We would have another opportunity to meet him in the studio to have such a discussion, especially gearing and firing into the elections. Most definitely, there will be the voices we'll be hearing. We are grateful, sir, once again. And